Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of The Live Wire on Inside UNC Charlotte. And today we're going to talk about a very interesting project that's interesting in and of itself, but it's also a really cool event in the life of the university. We have a student and faculty team from multiple disciplines working on a project that's putting UNC Charlotte on a national stage later this year. And joining us today to help tell the story is the communications director from the College of Arts and Architecture, Meg Whalen. Meg, thank you for being with us. And the big suspense of what we're going to talk about today is the Solar Decathlon and UNC Charlotte's entry into that. And we're going to kind of start from the beginning and go all the way through to where we are today, which is kind of on the verge of this thing literally taking shape. So let's start at the top. If you've heard about it, this is going to fill in all the details for you to date. And as we get going in our conversation, if you have questions about it, go ahead and send them in by email and Twitter, as always, and we'll work them into our conversation. So Meg, Solar Decathlon, what is it and what are we doing this year and how did it come about for us as an opportunity?
Okay, the Solar Decathlon is a national, actually international competition that the U.S. Department of Energy started in 2002. And the point of it is to demonstrate at large to the public the potential for solar energy. The challenge is to design, build, and operate a fully solar-powered home. And it is a challenge that is issued only to academic teams, universities, and colleges throughout the United States and even abroad. And there is first an application process, and that was the beginning step for UNC Charlotte. We put together a design almost 2 years ago. It's been about 19 or 20 months ago in October 2011 and submitted it to the Department of Energy. And then we found out subsequently in January that we had been accepted as one of 20 teams to compete. And so the real design process kicked in at that point. And students from architecture, from engineering, and also from the College of Business have been working together to come up with a home that we will build right here and then take to the competition, which is this October in Irvine, California.
All right. So that is a really cool story and a really cool outline, and we're going to try to get in as many of the details as we can in the next 27 minutes or so. And let's start at the beginning of the scenario you just created in our minds. Is this a tough thing? Is it a tough competition to even be accepted and to have the opportunity to be a competitor in the Solar Decathlon?
It is, because there, as you might guess, with Decathlon, there are 10 contests, and they're very specific contests. And
within the one.
Within the one competition,
it's comprised of
right?
10 categories.
It's comprised of 10 categories, 10 tests that you have to prove that you can do. And so, you know, it's one thing to design a home and to have the concept and all. I mean, that's a hard enough project, but to demonstrate in the application process that you have the wherewithal to raise the money to make it happen, and then to actually build it, that you have the expertise there in your university to actually bring this to fruition and make it operable. And so that's a huge undertaking.
I'm hoping that our campus audience in particular is going to hear this story, hopefully for the first time here today, and take a little pride in this, in the fact that we should all be interested in following this over the summer, over the coming months, and kind of cheer on the project and find ways to get involved. Because last week we talked about football, but football isn't the only big competitive thing that's going to be happening here as we move toward the next academic year.
That's right, and what's really cool is that the house is going to be built, or is in the process now of being built, right across from the football stadium. So if you're coming for a game, let's see, when is the first game?
Yeah, I
should know that. We may be gone. I think we're going to be packed
schedule,
up and left.
Because again, the
but
house,
it'll be back. The house
it'll
will
come back after the
it'll
competition.
come back after the competition.
So let's talk in a little more detail about the house itself. And I would say that, for most of us, when we hear the idea of a solar house, we think, oh, we have those fancy new shingles that collect solar energy, right? Is that what we're talking about?
Actually, somewhat, yes.
Yeah, but and
but there's a lot more to it than that.
And
but
really what we're getting at here is that everything about the house and all of its systems are powered by energy from the sun, and all have to demonstrate a high degree of sustainability
and efficiency.
And you're not talking about a project where we're cutting corners. So in other words, well, you know, maybe people who are into this kind of thing wouldn't watch TV anyway, so we're not going to mess with that.
And you're not allowed to do that because they make sure through the 10 tests that this house operates in a modern capacity for the average person, so that you've got a big screen TV and you've got oven and stove and refrigerator and washer and dryer and hot shower and all of the amenities.
This is, in my mind, this is kind of like when you go to a big auto show and you're lucky enough to be at one big enough where they bring in the concept cars. This is the concept house.
Right.
And so let's go to some images if we can. And as we're looking at these pictures, you can just tell us what we're looking at, kind of set the stage, and then we're going to look at some actual renderings of the house. Where the house is not as far along as these renderings suggest, because that's why we call them renderings.
That's
but
right.
It is what the house is going to look like. So
that's right.
Let's go to the first picture here.
So the first picture is actually a big sign in California. The competition this year is in Irvine, California, at a big park. It's the first year it's been there. In the previous years, and this competition takes place every other year. So in previous years it's been in Washington, D.C. on the National Mall, but now it's been moved out to California. And in fact, in January, all the teams went out for a powwow to get some training, and this was the sign that welcomed them. We sent some of our team members
so DC
out.
would have been a little more
would have been a little easier, yes.
But I suppose, you know, if you.
But the people in the western part of the country are happy to have it on their side.
Well, and following the news today, it's, you know, the sun is pretty much set on DC anyway, so there's not enough solar.
And there's a lot of sun in California all the time, so it's a good place for solar panels.
Yeah.
Look at that nice blue sky.
Yeah.
So here is our logo for our house. The house is called Urban Eden, and that really does reflect the concept of the house. The concept is that it is an urban house. It goes in the city. It's an urban infill project. So you take a small piece of land that's not being used in the middle of the city, and you can put this house there. But unlike, you know, a sort of a parking lot in the middle of a city, we want to have an element of nature and an element of the beauty of the natural surroundings. So we have an Eden that is the back of the house, that is a vertical garden wall, which you'll see.
Sure.
And this was designed by a student, this logo. And so here is a rendering of the house in Charlotte. We've put it in Charlotte. And you
how
can
it could
see
look if it were positioned on a fabulous corner in uptown,
which is not exactly, I mean, really, it's more likely that it would be in a tighter place and not really on such an open place. That would be sort of a luxury.
The first thing that probably comes to somebody's mind when they see that is that's a pretty modern design.
It is. It's a modern design. This is our architecture students. The lead principal investigator is Mona Azerbaijani. She's an architecture professor in our School of Architecture, and she's led a team to design this, and they like modern design. It's very sleek. You can see another picture. In this you can see those solar panels that are across the top. They are the element that gathers the energy from the sun to use in the house.
And that side view, I think, is one of the illustrations that will bring home, pun intended, the idea that this is a home that has outdoor living in a serious way.
That's right.
In addition to the indoor spaces.
That's the front. I thought maybe the next picture, we'll have to get to the next picture, so we'll go back to this. But yes, you can see there the back, it's actually an indoor-outdoor design. So there are two halves to the house. The interior half, which is a living and kitchen, dining space, bedroom, bathroom, and then a comparable exterior space that doubles the size of the house and is surrounded by this vertical garden wall. And the whole south wall of the house is glass. It is a very special, high-quality triple pane window glass that is extremely energy efficient and that allows you to see out the back into the garden and into the exterior rooms. So I'll just sort of walk you through the house. This is the entrance as you come in the front door.
And what we're looking at here, and I know you're going to explain this in far greater detail, but we're looking at a house, there's a lot of concrete.
There's a lot of concrete.
Yeah.
And it is a concrete house.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about that some more as we get into it. But that is actually, the concrete is one of the big experimental elements of this house. This house is a research project,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one thing we have to remember at the top. First and foremost is that this is a project that will continue to have a life beyond the competition as a research project. And one of the big research elements is the material that it's being built out of, which is a special kind of concrete called geopolymer concrete that is the result of 5 years of research of Dr. Brett Tempest, who's one of our engineering professors on campus. He's still in the midst, 5 years and still going.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the first building to be built of this material. And
that's
so
that's
we'll
a
see
great
how it goes.
that's a great story to remind us that in addition to being a super prestigious design competition, it's a way to showcase the breadth of the research talent going on here at UNC Charlotte, and
Exactly.
the fact that this is something that the other teams aren't going to do because they don't have our guy.
That's right. I mean, and this is a very distinctive thing. There is
Yeah,
no
neat.
other house that has this kind of element to
That's
it.
great. Yeah.
So here you go into the kitchen and living space, and you can see through the back. You can see that back wall, all glass, doors and windows.
So that's what you're looking through is what you said. That's the glass, and that would be considered the back of the house, right?
Right. And that's the south side,
Okay.
and the way it's all constructed according to the way the sun works.
Mm-hmm.
And in the wintertime, the sun is lower, and it comes pouring into that back window to help warm the space. So it's a passive use of the sun to help warm the
Sure.
space. In the summer, the sun is higher, and in fact, you'll see in some later pictures our solar panels. This is another one of the innovative qualities of the house. The solar panels are on a track, and they can slide out over that decking area, and that not only shades the deck, but it also shades that back glass wall and prevents the sun from pouring in the summer if you want to keep it cool.
That's great. If you're watching this and have some questions, go ahead and send them in to us by email or by Twitter. And in a few minutes, we'll also show you the developing website for the Urban Eden project. And the hope in introducing this to you today is that you, as a member of the UNC Charlotte community, will become engaged in this and want to follow it over this spring and summer, and come see it once it's underway. And we're going to talk about that in a minute too. As you look at this. This is a pretty small space. Is that part of the fact that it's a concept, or is it going? Is the point of this small living? Because downsizing is a trend these days too,
It's
right?
a combination.
Yeah.
The competition actually limits the size of the
Okay.
house, so we're working within the limitations of the competition, but also it's part, I think, of the concept and of the philosophy of urban living, that you try to maximize the use of your space and be able to do more with less. And so, in fact, the design of this house really does do that. You'll see right here the kitchen counter has chairs, and it's sort of like a counter space with chairs. Well, that structure there actually slides out and becomes a dining room table that can seat 8 people, so if you want to have a dinner party, and then you can slide it back under the kitchen table to get it out of the way. So there's a way of using that space. This is really cool. This is the TV. It will have furniture around it, but the TV is built into a wall, and then you can open that wall. And so 2 things with that. You can open the wall and sit outside and watch TV from your outside living space. And it also reveals a Murphy bed, so if you have a guest come to visit, there's a sort of a private area there, and you can put up an additional screen to make a little private guest bedroom. So again, this concept of making the most out of a small space.
Sure, and there's the TV, which serves to make the point that you're not, in this design, the idea is to put in everything.
That's right, to have all the electronics
a typical
you need.
homeowner, and so the kitchen, I'm sure, is well equipped as well.
It is, with high efficiency appliances from Electrolux, who's
Yeah.
one of our sponsors.
Notice
Really nice quality
And
appliances.
are those in any way sort of Electrolux appliances of the future? I mean, is there some
They
aspect
are,
to them?
because of the level of the efficiency. They perform very well on less energy.
Which, again, it's Charlotte, so that's a fantastic connection there
Right.
in telling the story. And isn't it the case that part of this project needs to demonstrate where it's coming from?
Yes, you need
Yeah.
to be rooted in your home place, and so that is because Charlotte, first of all, is a growing urban place. So that's the concept behind the Urban Eden. But then also, Charlotte is redefining itself as an energy hub.
Sure.
And Duke Energy is another one of our sponsors for this house, and we're really trying to be on the cutting edge as a city in energy production and energy efficiency, and so this is a demonstration of that. Here's the bathroom, which has these very modern.
Okay, I have to ask, is that the toilet or is that, or is that the sink? I'm taking that the top thing that's like the trough there is
I need my designers here.
I'm taking that's one of the very modern looking sinks there at the top, and then the
and
lower
then
thing.
this is actually the shower.
All right.
Isn't that cool? So you could put, if you wanted to put some kind of curtain or something here, but the idea is that the vertical wall, as long as you've got green growing on your vertical garden, that you're in seclusion.
Or very good timing and a knowledge of your neighbor's traffic patterns.
That's right.
You'll be all set.
You'll be all set. And here's the bedroom.
Yeah.
And so you can go out into this area and have a
Now, is this the same space as the Murphy bedroom?
No, this is the separate bedroom. So the Murphy bed is for a guest bed.
Got it.
And then this is for people who live here.
Okay.
And so here you can see the south side and the back. You can see these external rooms. This is the one off the bedroom rather, and this is the one off the living area. And this is actually where the bathroom, and there's a core that has water heater and all of the HVAC system and all that in it. Here are, oops, how did that happen? Here are the solar panels, and down here you can see how they slide out to cover the deck, or they can slide back over if you want to have the sun on the deck and pouring into the windows. So that retractable system.
Sure.
And then here's kind of a bird's eye view of the house, so you can see it from above and again see those solar panels.
One question that has come in on Twitter is probably a good opportunity to reiterate and clarify again. When we talk about this being a cross-discipline, multi-college, collaborative enterprise, again, the students are coming from where and how many students are involved, and what kind of students are these?
There are overall about 80 students who have been involved at different places. Again, this is a project that's gone on for it will have been 2 years when we're finished, and so some have graduated and left. We have students from architecture who have been a part of the design of the exterior and the interior, the design of the furniture and all of that. We have students from all the engineering disciplines, mechanical, civil, electrical, so a whole wide array of engineering students who are involved, and faculty.
Yeah.
And then we have some students from the College of Business, because one of the contests, one of the 10 contests is market appeal, and another one is communications, because the whole concept behind the Department of Energy's creation of this competition is to build public awareness.
Sure.
And so marketability and communications is really important.
It really feels, it seems like a natural fit for the talents and expertise across our campus.
It really is.
We've got all those bases covered well with our academic offerings here. So
we do. So here's our campus, and we're building it right now, even as we speak. The students are building it here on the campus. Right now they're building the wooden parts. So you can see pictures of them building the decking, all of the part that is the exterior room, working on furniture. They're building all the furniture themselves, all that Murphy bed in the place. It's all being done here.
Is that par for the course? Is that an expectation of this competition, or are we just doing it because we can and we can do it well? In other words, why not just go down the road to IKEA and pick up
and some things we will purchase, the sofa or whatever, but I think partially because we do have the expertise here. We have a wonderful woodworking shop. We've got faculty who are experts in that. But of course, as you mentioned earlier, the primary part of the house is concrete. That is not being poured here. We have a company, Metromont, that is another of our sponsors, that is very close to campus, and they do precast concrete, and so they are in the midst. They poured some of the panels last week, they're pouring more next week, and then the final ones the following week, and they will all be delivered here on one day, and the house will sort of go up in a matter of about 3 days.
And we're going to do our best on Inside UNC Charlotte on the web to make known when that moment's going to happen, and to the extent that any of us can come watch, you know, the arrival, and then from there continue to follow the progress. That would be another place where we'll help with the news of that, and again, people can go back to the website that we'll touch on in a minute as well.
Right,
So,
it'll be very exciting.
yeah,
And
that's great.
so one of the things about this concrete is, you know, to build a house out of concrete, you think, well, and what is that going to look like? It could be really ugly. So the students and faculty have spent months doing different test pours with different surfaces to see what they could do to make it really attractive, and they ended up with one that's not really shown here, but it's sort of similar, I guess, to that one.
Oh, okay.
And so it's going to have a really interesting facade to it.
You know, I saw a concrete residential home that had been designed and then built, and it was over in Black Mountain maybe a year or so ago. It was on the market. It was just interesting to walk through and take a look at it. But it certainly, while it had many energy efficient things about it, and concrete is, if you think about it, a pretty fabulous material if you want an energy efficient house, what it lacked was a lot of light and very minimal windows, and this design for Urban Eden kind of reverses that idea.
Right,
So,
with the glass wall, and we're able to do that because of the high efficiency glass that we're using.
Yeah.
But the concrete is an integral component to the energy efficiency of the house. It's very dense and heavy, and so that's what you need, is a lot of thermal mass when you want to try to use passive heating and cooling structures.
And once the concepts from Urban Eden and the design itself and the modifications become something that everybody in the world is going to want, you know, in a year or two, and we take off with it, probably it'll be the case that the pouring and the actual construction are going to be all done in maybe closer proximity than the fact that you're talking about in this project, getting it all done and put together here, but then having to put it on a train to take it to California.
Right.
So,
Yeah, in fact, here's the picture of California. We do have to get it all the way across the country. Actually, we had been planning to put it on a train, but it's become, it looks like it's actually going to be less expensive to put it on 4 trucks.
Oh,
so
right.
we may be trucking it
All
now.
right.
That's the latest news from 2 days ago.
get a convoy. That'll be great.
A convoy.
Yeah.
Take it all the way out
Yeah.
to California, where the competition will be held in October. We'll leave here in probably early September, I guess, and get it out there, and then we have about a week or so to get it put back together.
Is that doable?
And,
I mean, obviously it is doable according to the plans, but
we're hoping
to put a house back together again,
because
and
we have
it,
to make sure all the systems work. And one of the key systems in this is that these concrete walls hold this very sophisticated tube system that will have water that can run through to help in the heating and cooling of the house. And so all of this is very innovative and experimental technology.
Yeah.
So we just hope it works when we
So
get
the walls themselves will be essentially, what would you say, conducting, or, you know, essentially temperature controlled walls.
Right, because if the walls heat up in the summer, for instance, and that concrete absorbs all that heat, you can run cool water through them in the evening, and then there's a roof exchange on the top where that water is able to release that heat into the sky. And so it's a way to very naturally cool the house down without using, you know, energy.
What's going to happen if with this kind of design, if you have a week that's kind of like the last few days we've had here, and, you know, intermittent sunshine at best? I mean, does the house just quit? Or is there a panic switch where you can go back on to?
Well, you know, actually, I don't even know all the answers to the questions. I know that we do have energy storing capacity, and then ultimately, with the idea of this kind of structure, the idea would be that you would have a number of these kinds of houses contributing to a grid
Right.
that then would
There's
help
some sharing going
do
on
some
there.
sharing. But,
Yeah.
but one of the requirements for the house is that it actually produce more energy than it can use, or that it is
Sure.
using at
Okay.
any one time, so that you do have, develop this reservoir, I guess,
So
to draw from.
as it's being put together, and then certainly as it's near completion, as we come over and take a look and watch the progress on the website as well, all that will become evident. So as we're maybe wondering, was there a giant battery in the back or something? We'll get a chance to see that and understand that.
That's
So
right.
I think so much discussion about energy and diversifying our sources of energy and sustainability in this country usually work their way around to the day's not going to come where we just say, okay, everything's going to be solar or everything's going to be this or that or the other thing. So I think the chance to see this being developed and to see UNC Charlotte really taking a step to step forward and say, we're part of the diversifying process and we're going to do something that helps show what this is like.
And looking for new ideas
Yeah.
and looking for solutions.
Who are the teams to beat in this
Here.
competition besides these characters
are our
here?
This is our team.
Yeah.
They're a good-looking crew.
Yeah.
There are teams from all over.
Mm-hmm.
There's a team from West Virginia and one from the Tidewater area of Virginia. Those are the closest teams. There's several from California. There's one from the Czech Republic.
Oh, really?
So we have a whole huge variety of them, and I do want to show folks the website. You can go to urbaneden.uncc.edu
Okay.
or also solardecathlon.uncc.edu. Either one will get you here, and you can learn a little bit more about the house and about the team and about our sponsors and keep up with what's happening.
Again, just in case there's any confusion, which there probably isn't, but as stunning as that image is, it is a rendering.
It is a rendering. But as soon as the house is finished,
Yeah.
we'll start taking real pictures, and they'll be up there too. So
Yeah, I think it's the kind of design where some people are going to say that's the coolest thing I've ever seen, and some of them are going to say that's a little bit different from my brick colonial. But at the same time, I think the point is the project itself, and there's so much about it that we can learn from as it's happening, and the chance to watch this happening on our campus over in and around Epic.
that's right. It is. It's right around the Epic building.
And show us a little bit more on that website and kind of what's coming.
So you can go here and see. There we go. Our news page, and this is a good place to follow what's
Okay.
happening, because you can see all the things that we're up to, and we also have a Tumblr account and a Facebook page where you can really follow the daily process. If you go to our Tumblr page, which may take a minute. Oh, guess what? It's not up right now. So we are literally every day in the process
Right.
of building this site. And so the Tumblr site was here, but it's been taken off momentarily. But if you go to solardecathlon.tumblr.com,
All right.
you can follow our progress, and the students every time they do something, they put a picture up there, and then you can learn more about the competition on the site. You can go to the Solar Decathlon site and see how the other teams are doing.
What if we want to help in some way or support this project in some way, or just know a little more about it in firsthand experience kind of way? Because again, we're about to finish the academic year, and boy, any number of us are still going to be around this summer, and this is a great thing for summer because you can have a few extra minutes and come over and take a look.
First of all, do follow us, do pay attention, and when it comes time for the competition in October, vote for us for People's Choice Award, because that does help us. But also, if you want to make a donation, you can go to our sponsor page, Give Now, because we are still raising money to transport the students there, because we've got to have a big team of students to build and operate that house.
That's got to be a tremendous career-changing experience for the students to be able to graduate here and show participation in this kind of project. So
it has been such a great learning experience for them.
Good. All right. Well, I think the the takeaway for me on this is that we need to have you back a few more times, and probably have you back along with some of the other folks who are directly involved, and hopefully eventually some of the students who are doing this. And then we'll probably follow from a distance during the competition at Irvine, and then when it comes back, the house will come back to campus.
It will come back to campus, and we'll
Yeah.
put it on display. We'll have
Yeah.
let people come in and see it,
Yeah.
tour it.
That'll be great. So this is something that hopefully we're introducing to a number of folks on campus through this webcast, and that we'll all take an interest in and really start cheering on, because this is UNC Charlotte competing on an international stage in the solar decathlon, and it's a great story. So
Thanks.
our thanks to Meg Whalen for joining us today on the Live Wire on Inside UNC Charlotte, and we will be back again next week. And we appreciate you putting us on your screen, sending in your questions, and we'll look for you again next week. Thank you.